Hello, dear friends. I don't usually talk about politics, but Milei's speech in Davos left me reflective. But the most important thing is not the political model, but the spiritual development of society. A good system wouldn't work well in a corrupt society. Opinion piece. Holistic society. Integral approach. Integral wellness. Holographic model. Libertarian socialism. From Herod to Pilate. Decline of tyranny. Citizen participation. Capitalism or collectivism. Extraterrestrial political system. 3D or 5D political models. Aquarius energy is libertarian. Holistic and holographic galactic model. Let's start. Milei's speech in Davos against collectivism has given me a lot to think and reflect on because he is partly right. It is clear that the economy works better with a capitalist system than with a socialist system, but it is not so clear that the wealth is better distributed. What is supposed to be the best social democratic system in the world, that of Sweden, failed economically, and I say that perhaps it was the best because there was hardly any corruption in the Nordic countries, while it is an endemic evil in the Latin countries. Milei is a failing soul like me, and he has the face of an urban lion, but we are very different. I have no political vocation in a world of sharks that devour you as soon as you show your head. The lion has also been my symbol of fortune all my life, but I am a tame tiger as long as I am not provoked. Benjamin Fulford calls Milei out, accusing him of being one of the bad guys, and Robert Martinez says that it is controlled distance. But Milei is trapped by the IMF, which forces him to comply with the 2030 agenda in exchange for relieving him of debt payments. In the case of Argentina, it is clear that the voters had only two options, that is, continue with more of the same, heading towards the economic abyss, or try something new and different to see if it works. But it is also true that it doesn't work. Miracles cannot be done with the current economic situation in Argentina. Aquarius energy is libertarian. It is a rebellious sign that fights for justice and freedom. This means that the time of tyrants is in decline, with the chaos that this implies. Let us remember that Pluto is the planet of transformation and renewal, and Aquarius is a liberatory, humanist, rebellious, and innovative sign who likes to follow its own path and does not accept impositions of any kind. This trend would manifest starting next Sunday, January 21st, with the entry of Pluto in Aquarius. Duality. The problem with the world we know is that we are very limited as long as we have to choose only between two political systems, capitalism or socialism, that is, between the bad or the West, as if there were no more options in the world. But freedom should be always above other values, because God made us free. Of course, the word freedom would become a bad joke when you don't have a job or food for your family. That would be called freedom to starve. That is why I understand all political points of view without identifying with any of them, because they are all badly right and badly corrupt. But please, don't steal my freedom in the name of the poor, because it is a very poor excuse. Furthermore, one thing would be the monopolistic capitalism of large multinationals that stifles private initiative, and another very different thing would be the capitalism of small entrepreneurs, where everyone would have the right to set up their own business in theory. In that case, we would have no choice but to become utopian and look for the third, fourth, or fifth way. Many have failed in the attempt because it is one thing to preach and another thing to give wheat. Both capitalism and collectivism are third-dimensional models, like choosing between Herod or Pilate, between Great Bad or Great West, which have caused a lot of suffering to humanity. And therefore, the solution would not be in the third, but in the fifth dimension. Furthermore, both systems are capitalist, like two sides of the same coin, because socialism would be state capitalism, but a libertarian socialism would be better than an authoritarian socialism like dictatorial communism. Integral approach. In that case, there would be no choice but to resort to the galactic model of a holistic or holographic society, as opposed to the pyramidal model that we have now, which is very unknown because it is not interested in being known. A holistic society refers to a comprehensive approach to understanding and addressing the various aspects of life in society. Holistic involves viewing society as an interconnected system in which all elements are related and affect each other. Instead of addressing problems in isolation, we seek to understand how the various parts interact and influence each other. You will tell me that all this is very similar to the bad guys project, to the famous saying, you will have nothing and you will be happy. But keep in mind that every bad guys project is a crude copy of the good guys project to turn it around, since the ultimate goal of the regressives would be to create a dystopian and feudal society where less than 1% of the population would rule over the rest of humankind. That is, the rule of the rich over the poor. Definition. The term holistic society or holographic society can be interpreted in different ways depending on the context. Both terms suggest a comprehensive and connected view of society, but they may have slightly different approaches. Comprehensive approach. The holistic society is based on the idea that all aspects of social life are interconnected and interdependent. It seeks to understand society as a whole, considering not only economic aspects but also cultural, social, environmental, and spiritual dimensions. Comprehensive well-being. A holistic society is concerned with the comprehensive well-being of its members, not only in economic terms, but also in terms of physical and mental health, interpersonal relationships, personal and spiritual development, among other aspects. Culture and diversity. Cultural diversity is valued, and the importance of inclusion and equity is recognized. A holistic society seeks to promote understanding and cooperation between different cultural groups. Citizen participation. The active and conscious participation of citizens in decision-making and in the construction of society is an important element in a holistic perspective. In summary, a holistic society seeks to understand and address social challenges and opportunities holistically, considering multiple dimensions and fostering a balanced approach to improving the quality of life of its members. Holography. Holographic society. The term holographics is often used in an analogy with holography, a process of creating three-dimensional images using light. In a holographic society, it could be indicated that each part contains information about the whole and vice versa. Each individual or group contributes uniquely to society as a whole, and the whole is reflected in each part. Interconnection and networks. The holographic analogy can also imply the existence of meaningful patterns and connections in society that extend beyond superficial appearances. Society would be seen as an interconnected network in which each node, individual or community, has an impact on the entire system. Both concepts share the idea that society cannot be fully understood if it is fragmented into parts. Both the idea of a holistic society and a holographic society share the fundamental notion that a complete understanding of society cannot be achieved by fragmenting it into isolated parts. Both concepts advocate a comprehensive perspective that recognizes the interconnection and interdependence of the various elements that make up a society. Instead of viewing society as a collection of independent parts, the importance of understanding how these parts interact and influence each other is highlighted. This can encompass economic, social, cultural, environmental, and spiritual aspects, depending on the specific perspective of each concept. Ultimately, both holistic and holographic societies seek a deeper and more complete understanding of social reality, recognizing the complexity of the relationships between different elements and highlighting the need to address problems and opportunities holistically. Libertarian socialism. Libertarian socialism, as opposed to authoritarian socialism, is supposed to be the basis of the New Age spiritual movement, according to Michael Dargaville. The two main forces of the New Age global movement, official extraterrestrial disclosure and deep spirituality, would rest on libertarian socialism, but I am very wary of this term based on the many historical experiments in utopian socialism that have failed. In general terms, libertarian socialism seeks to establish a society based on equality, self-management, and individual freedom, avoiding hierarchical structures in both the economic and political spheres. Libertarian socialism is a current of political and economic thought that combines elements of socialism and anarchism, with an emphasis on the decentralization of power and the promotion of individual freedom. It is important to highlight that the term libertarian in this context does not refer to the modern notion of libertarianism, which is often associated with the free market perspective and minimal state interventionism. On the other hand, in the context of libertarian socialism, the term libertarian refers to the defense of freedom and autonomy of the individual against hierarchical power structures. Some key features of libertarian socialism include self-management. It advocates the idea that workers and communities should directly manage the control and means of production and economic decision-making. This contrasts with the hierarchical ownership and management structures typical of capitalism. Decentralization seeks the decentralization of power both in the economic and political spheres. It advocates the organization of society into autonomous, self-organized units, such as cooperatives and self-managed communities, rather than large centralized entities. Libertarian socialism rejects the idea of an authoritarian state as a means to achieve a utopian society. Instead, it seeks forms of social organization based on direct participation and consensual decision-making. Seeks social and economic equality with the aim of overcoming the inequalities inherent to capitalism. It advocates the elimination of social classes and the equitable distribution of resources. In addition to its domestic concerns, libertarian socialism is also often critical of imperialism and oppression internationally. This implies opposition to the domination of one country over another, as well as any form of exploitation or intervention that perpetuates global inequalities. Galactic version. The holographic society or holistic society corresponds to a extraterrestrial political system based on tiered councils, most used by advanced races in communities that have a large number of inhabitants, a system that adapts to the needs of each culture. According to Zanefa, Earth is the only planet that has a monetary system and governments run by hidden controllers who do not wish to help humanity. On the other hand, advanced stellar societies have a political system called a holographic or holistic society that works based on tiered councils and adapts to the needs of each place and each culture. When a new society is structured, the steps to follow will always be to worry about what is most important: human beings, animals, and the environment. When creating a new model of society, a series of basic needs must be prioritized, and nature and animals in plural, must be integrated as part of society, and free agreements must be reached between all parties for the maximum benefit of the greatest number of beings. The inhabitants of Sirius and Arcturus are the ones who have given the most information on this topic. According to the messages, money is not rooted in justice or what is fair. Its roots correspond to making us dependent on a system that the elite controls to dominate us and have control over us. Galactic society is structured into various councils of wise men and women. From a basic one that represents a small group of inhabitants to a planetary council where its members represent all the inhabitants of the planet. All councils are made up of people who wish to participate in them voluntarily. It is a system made by citizens and for citizens, without economic or power interests, and with the sole purpose of helping society. And there is no government system that manipulates and controls. The holographic society is made up of the people who live in a place in order to organize themselves so that no one lacks anything: food, housing, supplies, and everything that each particular human being requests in order to develop according to their lines of interest. In each of us, there is the strength we need to move forward and overcome situations that do not favor us. In each of us, there is that inner light that allows us to advance on our path and not give up. It pushes us to continue despite all the difficulties that may exist and that may affect us. This is only a small sample of what a galactic society would be like, since there is no manual with all the instructions. It is something we must discover and explore ourselves as we ascend to higher dimensions of a spiritual frequency. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.